All right, Ms. Angie, I am ready. Let me go ahead. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to bring this hearing to order. Tonight, the Saunders Company will present community feedback they gathered during the Reimagining Safety public engagement process. Almost 4,000 residents responded to an online survey. More submitted ideas across 6 town halls, and the Saunders Company facilitated around a dozen focus groups. This feedback will form the basis of Council's investment in reimagining safety and ongoing reform efforts. Already, we use this feedback to designate $2.5 million for neighborhood-based violent intervention, domestic violence prevention and response, programming for youth, and future diversion programs for young adults in the criminal justice system. And that is just part of the $10 million fund that Council process. While many pieces of reimagining safety require financial investment, some require changing practices, policy, and law. It's with an eye towards continued reform and ongoing investment that Council convenes this hearing tonight. First, the Saunders Company is going to present their findings from the public engagement process. They've invited 6 community representatives from important stakeholder groups to give brief remarks. These speakers represent youth, new Americans, people with disabilities, older residents, and more. Once the Saunders Company concludes the presentation, council members will have the opportunity to ask questions and discuss the results. Before we kick things off, I would like to see if any of my council colleagues have any opening remarks. Councilmember Tyson.
Yes, good evening, President Harden. I am just, first of all, just want to thank the Saunders Company for the outreach in our community. I look forward to hearing from the community this evening. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Councilmember Brown.
And also, Council President, I want to thank you for hosting tonight's Reimagining Public Safety hearing. It'll be exciting to get the feedback from the community. Certainly, Ms. Saunders and I go back a long, long way. We've known each other for quite some time. I look forward to the presentation and welcome my council colleagues, Priscilla Tyson and Rob Dorns and Remy. So you got a whole house here, Council President.
We do. We have a quorum.
There you go.
Councilmember Remy.
Thank you so much, Council President. Yeah, I echo Councilmember Tyson and Councilmember Brown's sentiments about this public engagement hearing. You know, we've seen the report. It's exciting to see the length and depth of the engagement we've gotten within the community, and certainly want to dive deeper into that, understand it better, and use it as we move forward. So thank you to the Saunders Company. Thank you to Chair Brown and Council President for putting on this hearing this evening.
Certainly. Councilman Dorns, any opening remarks?
Well, it's hard to go last after that group of colleagues, but I guess the only thing I will add, and thanks to Chair Brown and certainly you, Council President, is I think the thing that I've been most interested in, especially for reviewing the report and seeing all the folks here tonight, is actually when we talk about actual community driven, that's what this is. And when you talk about the amount of people who've engaged with council, no, I'm not sharing anything new. We've heard more from people about this issue over the past year than we've been any other issue in my time on council. And there's no beginning, no end to this process. You know, this is sort of a continual aspect of the council continuing to look at this issue, what we can and should do better. So just appreciate folks in the community taking the time to make sure that their voice is heard, and so to my colleagues for having an open mind and thinking about how we can reimagine public safety and do things better here in Columbus.
Thank you, Councilmember. At this point, I'll turn things over to the Saunders Company. Ms. Gale, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. And Ms. Burks, if we have the opportunity to share our screen. Thank you. Share. And are you able to view that, everyone? Excellent.
Yes, ma'am.
President Hardin, members of City Council, we are so grateful to have the opportunity to be before you this evening. Tonight, we're going to give you a high-level overview of some of the findings that we found as a result of our community engagement efforts. We certainly want to underscore that you charged us with doing a number of things. And so one of the things that you wanted us to make sure that we did was to find a way to engage the community broadly and get the voice of the community as much as we could. And we did that in a number of ways. We did that through an online survey, as President Hardin mentioned earlier, and we had nearly 4,000 people to respond to that online survey. We did a series of focus groups, and so we were very deliberate about how we identified those focus groups to get a deeper understanding of what the community was feeling and sensing. And then we did, in collaboration with Columbus City Council, a series of town hall meetings. And those town hall meetings, we did some additional community engagement as part of that. We'll talk about that a little later. And then, of course, in collaboration and partnership with your media relations team, we did media outreach, and we also did some deeper community engagement and partner activities as well. So the first thing we want to do is walk you through some of the high-level highlights of our online survey. And so one of the things that you really wanted to get an understanding of was how important is it for the community to feel those things that they believe can be addressed in partnership with police officers. And so the first question we asked them is, is your comfort level in terms of having a partnership with the Division of Police and responding to crisis in ways that there would be not only the Division of Police, but another professional to accompany them. When we look at the data tells us that most survey respondents are very comfortable with having a partnership in addressing together human trafficking and sex trafficking issues, And so having a police officer and a trained professional going together on that crisis response would be important. Missing persons, having a partnership with a professional as well would be important. Child neglect and abuse cases and wellness checks. They believe, the community tells us, that they would be best handled by police officers together with trained crisis team responders. And so when you look at the data, you can see how that really does underscore the community's opinion about establishing alternative public safety crisis responses. Mental health and non-weapon related suicides were also top considerations for the respondents. When we look at and ask the community, what are they most comfortable in terms of responding to various situations without a law enforcement officer, where there would just be trained professionals to respond to those crises? Overwhelmingly, mental health crises. And they also said suicide threats or attempts that did not involve a weapon would also be very important. Homelessness issues, very critical. And they say those can be responded to without a law enforcement officer. Again, wellness checks was very high up on the level of comfort that the community feels in terms of responding without an officer. And you'll see general behavioral issues. And if you dig a little deeper into the data, those are issues that are nonviolent in nature. And so there's a high level of comfort for that as well. As we dig a little deeper, there were 16 questions on this survey. Some of those questions were demographic questions as well, and we'll talk about that too. The next question is the big question. Do residents feel that we need an alternative crisis response in our community when considering 911 calls? Overwhelmingly, if you see, the orange represents those who strongly agree. The light blue represents those who agree. And so if you look at the data, these are the types of incidents that people in this community believe we need an alternative crisis response for mental health crises, for mental health situations, homeless services and homeless situations. Again, we see that suicide, self-harm without a weapon, wellness checks. Certainly, they believe we need an alternative when we are calling 911 for those wellness checks. And then other incidents as well. But overwhelmingly, the community does agree that we do need to establish an alternative public safety crisis response, particularly for these types of issues. And then we wanted to get a sense of how people would respond if they see someone in mental crisis. As we know, that is something that we've seen in our community and responding to those communities and how law enforcement responds. Overwhelmingly, people are telling us that they would communicate with someone close to that person having a mental health crisis rather than calling the police. Secondly, they would try to communicate with the person, him or herself. And so calling 911 was down the road, 43%. Overwhelmingly, people are saying they would find another alternative, another way to address the issue rather than calling 911 first. And then, of course, you can see that Nat Care is part of the consideration as well, and on down the line, the suicide hotline. Now, this chart, I want to walk you through it and share with you what we're finding here. What we asked the community to do was to prioritize each of these services: addiction treatment services, community programs, mental health. You see the list of services that we provided to them. And we asked them to rank them in accordance to what they felt was most important in terms of having the greatest impact on improving public safety. And so this was a finding that really resonated with so many of our community members. We asked them to rank them 1 through 9. And so what we have found here is that social service supports, if you look at the purple here, and you see 25%, 16%, 12% in terms of the rankings, 1, 2, and 3, and on down, you can see that social supports ranks very highly in terms of how people feel that we can address and improve public safety in our community. The other big takeaway here is mental health services. Addressing mental health services is also very high up. It's in the top 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then when you look at addiction treatment, you can see that too really does rise to the top of the level when our community is thinking about what can we do to improve public safety in our community. The one thing that really jumped out at us is we look at uniformed police patrol. The highest ranking for that was number 9. And so when the number 1 is the priority on through 9. So what this tells us is that the community believes that if we put investments in on the front end of our work on prevention, social service programs, other initiatives, it might really play a role in helping to reduce some of the work that our police officers are having to do in the community. And so this one, it really did open some eyes for us in terms of how the community responded to that. The next piece is centered on investing in accountability and a better division of police. And so for this section, I'm going to ask Tia Ramey to walk us through the data in this section. Tia?
Thank you. In this section, what we did is we asked community residents to really define what is public safety to them. And so we found out that 54% of people who responded to this portion of the survey prioritized leaving home without fear. The next thing they defined was that safeguarding residents from crime was their next priority. Then protecting and serving the community. Next would be access to safe greenways. So these are our top 4 in our respondents from everyone collectively. Next slide, please. The next section, we asked residents what extent are police involved with their community beyond law enforcement. 52% believe that the police are not involved with their community beyond responding to crime. 33% believe that police are somewhat involved in their community beyond responding to crime, and only 14% responded that police are involved in their community beyond responding to crime. We thought this was very helpful in understanding the community's role of what they believe the police, or the value they believe police has for them. Next slide, please. This section, we did ask them to rank their priorities. And so these are our top responses for what is most important to them in this ranking. At the very top, we have active listening. So we had a significant number that responded to this survey, and active listening was a top priority for them. Next would be engagement, then a strong relationship, and then ongoing and consistent engagement with youth. So these sort of things are what we would deem to be quality responses from the community. We find that engagement is top priority, and as we go into that a little bit more, we'll dive into what exactly that means. I think that as we see it's ranked, active listening and then the next responses help it to be a little bit more detailed and deeper into what our findings are all about. Next slide, please.
And then our last section of our questions really does talk about investing in violence prevention. And so we also asked our respondents to really talk about and explore the different aspects and what that impact would have on public safety. Again, interesting finding, 81% ranked as number 1, investing in the root causes of violence and addressing them appropriately as their number 1 choice when asked to prioritize what would really help get to and address public safety in our community. Housing, I know that's also very important to Columbus City Council. Investing in more housing stability, economic stability, and public health, 77%. And then we talk about the alternative crisis response. That ranks very high here as well. 74% say replacing some police responses with trained crisis responders. And that has netted out in all of the questions associated with that. And then closely, really talking about, as Tia mentioned earlier, those partnerships, Columbus Police Agency partnerships, also with trained responders. And another thing that came up in this survey is decriminalizing certain nonviolent acts. They believe that that certainly is something that our city should consider when addressing the different aspects and the impact of public safety. And then you can see the other, reducing the number of guns and developing crime and violence prevention programs. And then when we asked them, what would they consider to either expand, increase, or consider? What came about again was, in their ranking, community-oriented policing. And when we go a little deeper in the data, they're really talking about focusing on building relationships, working closely with various organizations in the community, developing programs for youth. That's what that community-oriented policing looks like to them when we go deeper into their responses. Also, job training, very insightful comments when it comes to job training, helping people be employed, having livable wages would help to reduce and address some of the crime issues in our community. Reentry programs, that was something that came up as part of a strategy to either expand or increase. those types of programs. And then, of course, youth initiatives and violent prevention programs. And so as we look at the data, we knew that we got the responses from over 4,000 residents, but we also wanted to go a little deeper and get an understanding of what our community members would say when we talk to them directly. And so, as was mentioned earlier, we had over 12 different focus groups that we focused on, and those ranged from senior groups, from youth groups, of course, the disability community, the immigrant community, 100 Black women, a very, very broad group of organizations that we wanted to reach out to. And we have some of those individuals represented here tonight, and we're very pleased to have them with us tonight. And as if you know me, you know I always like to start with the young people. And so tonight, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. I'm going to ask our youth, they are students from the Academy for Urban Scholars. We have, both of them are juniors. We have first with us, Damani Willis, and we also have Teflon Hazelwood. And so they're going to share with you just their feelings, their thoughts, how they felt about the focus groups, and probably have some other insights for you as well. So Damani, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hi, my name is Damani Willis. I'm in the 11th grade and I attend the Academy for Urban Scholars. Thank you for allowing me to be here and voice my opinion on the matter. I am pleased to have my voice heard. As a teenager who is looking at my future, I want to be able to feel safe in my community, and I want people to know what we're experiencing. I'm sorry.
You're doing great. It's okay. Just be yourself.
Okay. When I discussed it with the focus group, we had touched on some really good points that we felt like needed to be discussed, like police officers, because we ain't want to feel like scared of them. We should feel comfortable by the people that are supposed to protect us. And like we talked about the judicial system, I felt like we should have a more equal judicial system because everything's not equal. And fewer like drug dealers and drug addicts in the world. But everybody makes their own choices and decisions, so we can't really make those for them. That's pretty much it. And the survey kind of gave you like a way to put it all out there. Like it gave you things to agree with and disagree with, and a lot of them was more so if you would put a police officer in a position to help you, and most questions probably not.
Thank you. Imani, I'm so glad to see that you've made it in, and so I'm going to turn this section back over to you, and you can introduce the rest of our guests and close out. Thank you.
Yes. Hi. Thank you so much, Damani, for sharing your thoughts. And we also have another student from the Academy of Urban Scholars here to share their thoughts. Teflon, if you want to go ahead and speak a little bit about some things that you put forth in the survey.
How y'all doing? All right, so my name is Teflon. I'm in the 11th grade and I go to the Academy for Urban Scholars. Thank you for the chance to be here today. I'm pleased to have my voice heard as a part of this process. When I talked with the focus group, I felt as if she was looking forward to helping young adults and help guide them in better ways to their future. As a teenager who is looking at my future, I want to be able to feel safe in my community and want people to know what we are experiencing. This survey was important to me because I know I'm not the only teenager that don't feel safe in their community. And they need to be, like example was, they need to be better job opportunities for young people 16 and over that'll keep us like off the streets and like keep us from being like drug dealers and stuff like that. And basically like laws to protect the tenants, because my neighbors recently just got kicked out because somebody, the dude who owned the house, sold it while they was living in it and they didn't know about it. So I guess, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I know we also have your coach and principal on, and we just want to acknowledge you both for coming to support your students. We really appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And we're going to move forward with our next speaker to share some of their thoughts, Pamela Shields from the Urban Aging Residents Coalition on the Near East Side.
Thank you for this opportunity. I am the founder and the organizer of the Urban Aging Residents Coalition, and our tagline is very simple: wisdom, because everybody is aging. We recently formed our partnership with the AfricanAmerican Wellness Agency with John Gregory, and safety and being in the community has become paramount for those of us who are aging and experiencing the many challenges that have complicated and compound our lifestyle, the pandemic being at the basis of this, being in the high-risk pool. And back in the summer, one of the driving forces for the formulation of this coalition and this group was around the fact that a 2-year-old toddler in the Mount Vernon Plaza was fatally shot back in August. And that is literally 6 blocks from where I live. So we were just devastated, many of the older adults in the community, and I decided to pull us together. And because we were not allowed to go in any of the community based organizations because of the pandemic. So I pulled us together and we did what I called the front porch chats. And we had our county coroner come out, Dr. Ortiz, and we had other speakers to come. And in addition to that, we had our community police officers, Anthony Rogers and Sam Peck. So we were trying to bridge all of this together, and we utilized the young people from the Young Men's Mentoring Group from the the Academy of Urban Scholars, because there is clearly a generational divide in our community, and we want to bridge that together. We want to make our young people know that you don't have to be in the same DNA and related to us to be considered family. We want them to know that we love them. So we definitely are trying to lift up a voice, have a presence, because safety is so critical to us. As we hear things on the news and in the media about older people being attacked, we hear gunshots. There's many times we're laying in our bed, and now keep in mind with the social isolation, the fact that many of us are living alone. So you hear gunshots, you see and hear all these things. Safety is so very critical. One of our members is 97 years old. She still drives the car, and she walks nearly 2 miles per day, given that the weather is appropriate. And she was able to participate in a focus group, and that was the first time in her entire life that she felt like city council and government cared about hearing who she is and what her thoughts were. So we're so grateful for the opportunity. And as one of our seniors said, that even being technically challenged in that digital divide that we're faced with, one of the representatives from the Saunders Group, Grace Hunter, was our facilitator. So she walked many of us through filling out this survey, and that was so excellent. But through this whole process, it made us feel like new life was being breathed back into us, and that was a breath that we needed. And because so many of us feel faithless, powerless, nameless, and certainly we're lonely. So thank you, City Council, and those who put this together for giving us an opportunity to leave a fingerprint. That's all we want to do in our community, because we want to be safe and we want to live. God bless you all, and thank you.
Thank you, Pamela, for sharing that. We really appreciate you. And our next speaker to share is Jed Morrison, Superintendent and CEO of Franklin County Board of Developmental Disabilities. Jed?
Good evening. Yes, thanks very much. And thanks for the opportunity to say a few words. As was stated, I'm the superintendent of the Board of Developmental Disabilities, and we serve about 20,000 over the course of a year, children and adults who have developmental disabilities. So we really very much appreciated the chance to be included in the focus on safety. We participated in a couple ways. We participated with a focus group with people representing children and adults who have developmental disabilities. And then we also sent out the survey to several hundred so that they had an opportunity to voice their suggestions regarding this whole effort. And I would say probably the two things that we sort of highlighted as things that we would hope would continue and are very good things in our interaction with police. Some of you may not know that we actually have one of our staff members who actually works at the Columbus Police Headquarters, has an office there, and so is able to interact with the police, particularly as it relates to situations that might involve individuals who have disabilities. And then we also are very involved in crisis intervention training, and we have staff members that participate there to assist in that training, helping to identify different types of disabilities and how one might respond to a person with a disability, depending on what that might be, and resources that we might be able to provide. So we I really appreciate the effort of the City Council, and we appreciate your leadership with this and a whole lot of other things. You all are doing great work, and we appreciate it. And again, we appreciated being involved. We thought the Saunders Company did a wonderful job in terms of allowing us to offer a voice in this whole effort. So thanks very much, and best wishes as you move forward with all of this.
Thank you, Jed, for sharing that. And lastly, our last speaker to share is Harry Cox, Cognitive Behavioral Specialist and Facilitator at Alvis Recovery Choices Cognitive Behavioral Treatment Program. So, Harry, go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairman Harmon and other honorable members of the City of Columbus City Council. My name is Harry Cox, and I was raised on the Lower East Side of Columbus, Ohio. I recently graduated from Grand Canyon University with my second master's degree in addiction studies and hold a LCDC-3 license for the state of Ohio. I work for one of the largest nonprofit agencies in the state of Ohio called Alvis 180. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to address this committee on behalf of the Reimagine Safety Initiative community, sample survey, and share how the information obtained would directly help us make a stronger community for tomorrow. Even though Columbus has become more aware in this area of safety initiatives and address oversights of police, the City of Columbus still needs to provide public safety measures and services that are crystal clear, responsible, and approachable for every person in every neighborhood throughout the Columbus, Ohio area. Therefore, when conducting the focus group, we felt it was important to include individuals, or what we call marginalized groups, which consists of incarcerated individuals and restored citizens that are now or will be returning into the community. Many want to be utilized as a conduit for change and to be a service in the community to help others, especially our youth, to change their perspective of law enforcement in the community. In addition, the survey conducted and information obtained will serve as a valuable tool, we believe, and a starting point in balancing the needs of Columbus community by developing and improving upon the current infrastructure of the Division of Police, by building the safety needs of people that echoes the community values towards a more unbiased and impartial justice system that supports police accountability and building community trust. The insight that we obtain from our members in incarceration, the first thing is similar to what has already been discussed earlier. Police officers and community leaders must provide education and purpose of CIT officers and what their professional duty is in the community. That is to support and provide positive mental health-based services, which do not exacerbate but rather de-escalate potential violence situations or conflicts seen in the home and the community. The next insight that we obtained was the challenge that the individuals face is establishing and adjusting to the new dynamics of the role in the family system, which has fallen apart due to incarceration and lack of social support in the community among peers. We must help redefine their role in the home and community when faced with obstacles like unemployment, as mentioned before, housing, low education attainment, physical and mental trauma, addiction, and other mental health services as unforeseen barriers that are actually happening in the community that can lead to instability in the family, home, and antisocial behaviors in the community and reincarceration. To quote from Councilmember Priscilla Tyson, we have to consider every opportunity to support residents in not only remaining physically healthy, but mentally healthy as well. If we really look at it, we discuss Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which gives the direction needed for true care and concern of all community members. As a community that is built on love, safety, security, and belonging, where every member of the community and law enforcement is providing positive impact on every aspect of each life's members in the community in order to achieve self-actualization. The third breaking point that we discussed was lack of concern, or what we call bystander empathy, in the community on the part of political authority figures, community leaders, and police officers associated with community members participating in antisocial activities or criminal behaviors. Many believe that the police are waiting for them to commit bigger crimes instead of addressing the current behavior and providing education about negative consequences that could result if the behavior is not changed. As Chairman Harding once stated, it takes all of us to work together to meet the needs of our city. Since the overall goal of Reimagine Ohio focuses on the equality of all individuals, regardless of past contacts with law enforcement and the criminal justice system in the community, these aforementioned concerns must be addressed. It would allow individuals of the criminal justice system the golden opportunity to have social stigmas and ongoing oppressions related to felony convictions removed. Moreover, it would provide opportunities that result in positive change to be seen in every community. Moreover, it would expand and promote opportunities for individuals to help the efforts of reimagining the community, while at the same time increasing opportunities for community relations to improve utilizing different perspectives that were not imagined in past political reformations of the criminal justice system. Lastly, it will allow for the true character of these men and women to be heard and seen as part of something bigger than themselves, reimagining Ohio. I hope you hear this call to equality and justice for all community members, and I want to thank you for your time and your patience in regards to this matter. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Harry, for all the other speakers for all of your input and for being here tonight to share that with us once again. And now, as we move forward with the rest of our presentation, I'm going to pass the torch to Cheryl, who is going to discuss the town halls.
Hi. Good evening, and again, to our students especially, we always love to hear your young voices. We, at some point, you all will be taking care of us, so we really need and want to know what you have to say. In January and February of 2021, our team was extremely excited to participate in 6 Reimagine Public Safety town halls. Each town hall was led by one council member, or oftentimes 2 or 3. Our topics included establishing alternative public safety crisis response, investing in violence prevention, investing in accountability and a better division of police. All of our town halls included national and local experts and a live community engagement exercise, which really afforded a lot of engagement, not only with the community, but it also helped the council and the Saunders Company really delve into our directive. We broadcast live on Facebook, YouTube, and via WebEx, and we had community engagement. We had 26 community speakers during each of our town halls. It was a wonderful experience for us, and I know that Gail has some other thoughts that I'm going to kick it back to Gail for the next slide.
Absolutely. Let me make sure. Absolutely. Thank you for that, Cheryl.
Thank you. Okay, there you go.
In our final report, you're going to see all of the comments that were gathered during those Menti exercises, sometimes up to 80-something comments. And so it really did give city council members an opportunity to go deeper and really hear from the residents in ways that may not have been done before in some of your meetings. So we were very excited about that. In addition to those opportunities, we also did outreach. We wanted to make sure that we reached organizations and others who may not have participated in the town halls, who were not necessarily part of the focus groups. And so we put our tentacles out even a little broader. And for that, I'm going to ask Grace to walk us through what we did for that additional outreach.
Thank you, Gail. Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Grace Hunter, and I'll just walk through a little bit of the additional outreach that we provided for the Reimagining Public Safety efforts. So first, we engaged with various nonprofit and community organizations and networks. We really relied on these organizations to push out the survey widely to all of their members. So I'll just give a quick highlight of some of the organizations. So AfricanAmerican Leadership Academy, the Columbus Freedom Fund, the Urban League Young Professionals, NAACP, the Mill Vets Network, New Americans Leadership Academy, OSU's Department of Social Change, and that's just to name a few. The report has a full list of the organizations that we engaged with. And then also, in addition to that, we took the survey to some specialized app networks, such as the Promises Made, Promises Kept, or PMPK app, and Columbus Black. So they were awesome partners trying to get that message out for us. Then we engaged with the faith community. We collaborated with Larry Price and Associates. We reached about 82 churches in Franklin County, and you'll also see a full list of those churches in the report. And this outreach included sending a direct link to the online survey, inclusion in their emails, newsletters, and any other communications that went out to their congregations, as well as sharing the survey opportunity on their social media networks. So that was an awesome partnership we had with Larry Price. In addition, we had a bit of a radio and digital buy. We implemented the radio that heavily encouraged survey completion through that last week of engagement. We really wanted to push that last week. We aired commercials on Radio 1. We also had a hyper-local digital ad running that focused on priority zip codes. And again, just that last week push to really drive up some engagement there. And then finally, earned and social media. So I just wanted to take a quick minute to shout out Lee Cole and the City Council Communications team. They really helped us by engaging with media partners. They sent out press releases, media advisories throughout the process. So thank you, Lee and team, for that. And they also sent out a series of chamber emails, the chamber emails that consistently go out, social media posts on Facebook, Twitter, to really engage with their vast network of residents, area commissioners, civic associations, nonprofit organizations, everyone that you all are connected to. They were bombarded with this opportunity to weigh in on what we're doing. And then through these communications, again, they were encouraged to not only take the survey, but also participate in the virtual town hall meetings. So that's pretty much a summary of our outreach. Again, you can find more details in the report. So thank you again for the opportunity to share. And Gail, I will turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much. And as you can see, our ability to reach various areas of the community, it took all of us working together to make this happen. And so awareness was very critical. You gave us a charge to really engage the community, and in partnership with your team And our team, we really did work to make sure that we reached as many people as we could. I don't think that people did not know about it because in addition to the media, the social media, we really did push that out. The other group who helped us as well, I just want to give a shout out to Who's Who in Black Columbus because they also helped us reach as well. And so in summary, we really heard from the community and some of the priorities that they think is very critical as you consider and continue to make considerations as you move forward in your planning. One of the things that's very critical is that this community really does rank social supports and those programs and initiatives that help to get to the front end of some of our challenges that we face. They really support that highly and really want us to really look at those programs and see what we can do to enhance them, increase them, or expand them. Some other things that came up in some of the commentary and some of the thoughts was childcare options when you're thinking about getting families back into the workforce or keeping them into the workforce. Job training, that came up many, many times in some of the responses to the surveys. Other things that came up, healthcare, of course, school and after-school support programs, access to healthy food, addressing some of the food deserts we have in our community, and just overall family support services. And so that's a high-level summary of what we learned. Again, we will have the final report to you so that you can place it on the website so the public can see that as well. But Councilman President Hardin, I'd like to turn it back over to you. And we certainly want to thank you for the opportunity to partner with you on this such important initiative.
Thank you, Ms. Gale, and to everybody. I can speak on behalf of my colleagues to say we really appreciated working with you and having you lead us through these important community conversations. And as pertaining to tonight's presentation, the young people that you brought to us, Ms. Pam and to Jed Morrison, it really is a great snapshot of who we heard from and who we gathered information from. So I appreciate that as well. That was really a highlight of the presentation this evening. We have just a few questions. We're going to open it up to council members for a few questions. I have one, and then I'll turn and open it up to my colleagues. I don't know, and this could be open to really anyone who, but maybe this came out of the focus groups. Did we hear specifically anti-police messaging coming from community members? What I heard from what I read through the report really doesn't seem like an anti-police messaging from the community. It seems additive, asking for additional services. What did we hear in terms of how folks perceive police officers in their role in the community, in public safety, in the broader public safety conversation?
President Hardin, I'll start, and if any of my team members want to jump in, please feel free to do so. But you're absolutely right. As we look at the data, as we look at the responses, even as we look at the deeper dive of data, there's not a message of anti-policing. What we're hearing and what we heard from the community is that there's an opportunity to actually bring some relief to what the officers are having to do in our community. And so their focus is on finding ways to enhance services that we provide to individuals in our community and really find ways to partner with the police from an alternative crisis response. Overwhelmingly, the community wants that, to finding ways to partner with organizations and agencies in ways that can help on the preventative side, from violence prevention, to thinking through how we really address mental health issues, because oftentimes that's not a police issue. And so that's what we heard from the community. It's not about anti-policing. It's about shoring up some of the systems that we have and actually changing some of the systems that we have to make this a better community for everyone, and to allow police to do what we're asking them to do, and that is to protect and serve.
If I may, I want to chime in a little bit. I don't think it was anti-policing either. I saw building relationships. One of my students said that they would like for the police officers to be nicer because they don't want to be afraid of police officers. So bridging the gap between the police and the community, I think we just have to build more relationships with the police so that people can feel safe and they can feel comfortable. And, I shared a story with my students today because they were talking about how, police officers, they're afraid of them sometimes. And I shared with them that my father was a police officer for 45 years. And he was one of the best police officers because he loved people in the community. So sometimes you just have to reach out and talk to people just to see, how they are instead of forming a preconceived notion of what you think they are. So building those relationships with the community, I think that's going to play a really, really vital role in bridging that gap.
Thank you so much, Coach. And I just want to underscore that if we go back to the survey data, community-oriented policing, but what they're talking about there, and they're very specific about that, and that focuses on building those relationships. And so 63% of the community says that that is a top priority. So those relationships really do matter, and that's an important part of what we heard from the community.
Thank you. Council members, you can just raise your finger so I can call on you. Councilmember Tyson.
Thank you, President Harden. And I do have another meeting at 7 and one at 8. So I am, first, again, I appreciate the presentation and all the individuals who shared information. Again, I think this presentation has shared with not only us, but hopefully the viewing and listening community, the importance of to understand the role the social determinants of health play in the community, and that there is a need for our community to provide, again, more resources to those social service organizations that are working in this community to be able to help enhance individuals' quality of life, from the job training programs to, as I said, certainly a focus of mine is access to healthy, affordable, and local food, but to make sure that we have provide the social supports that are needed if you have behavioral health issues. And so, again, I think the importance here is that when you're reimagining a public safety, it encompasses, just like they said, Maslow's basic needs. Are you having housing, food, job, the economic support? So I appreciate the presentation that we've listened to tonight, and I look forward to continue to work with my colleagues to help reimagine public safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Brown.
Oh, thank you, Council President.
Yes, sir.
A question, I guess, Gail, we're seeing an uptick in youth violence, and it is very, very disturbing in a lot of different ways. It's not just violence against each other, but it's also violence against senior citizens. Some of the young people are here, and I appreciate their engagement on thoughts on how to deal with that issue.
I'll start just by some of the commentary that bubbled up in the survey and some of our focus groups, and that is programming, addressing challenges on the front end, and so youth programs that keep them off the street, after school programs, most importantly, jobs and job training, but jobs that really help them to be able to take care of their families so that they are able to support families. And so also mentorship, that came up in many of our mentee, I see Cheryl shaking her head, in our mentee exercises, those comments, mentorship, and also sponsorship, sponsoring students to help them get to their next best was also something that came up. And then another thing that came up in some of the comments was finding ways to engage with Columbus City Schools and other school districts, Reynoldsburg, Whitehall, but Columbus City Schools, to help find ways to partner with students there, get them in school, keep them in school, and find ways. And they're not talking about law enforcement engagement. They're really talking about mentorship, Black men being more involved in the schools. And so some of the things, those are some of the things that came up. But we do have two of our youth here, as you mentioned, Councilman Brown. And so I don't know if either of you have any ideas. Teflon or Demani?
Me? No, I really don't have nothing to say for like the violence for the youth or that. Hold on, excuse
me. Maybe like more things where people can get together and I don't know, have fun, like learn new things. I mean, I like to learn new things sometimes, so maybe that.
Thank you.
Well, and let me add to that, Gail. The question of law enforcement officers in the schools, you know, we have school resource officers. Do they play a positive part or is it a negative? And when you start to talk about mentorship, the realization, you know, I'm a lot older than most folks, so I understand, but, you know, we respect the senior citizens, and I'm not seeing that today. I'm seeing a different attitude towards seniors from young people. Anybody have any ideas or suggestions with regards to that? We have a program, I say we, the Columbus Police has a program called TAPS, Teens and Police, where they deal with some schools and who have kids who are having some difficulties, and they seem to have a very, very positive relationship. But again, recently we're seeing a different level of engagement, and I don't know if that's COVID related, because everybody's been in the house and haven't had things to do and can't get to schools, and the ability to have recreation, to go to the movies and other things have been limited. But that is something that is really starting to bother me with regards to that kind of activity. And I appreciate the work that's been done, certainly in the survey. And I know in discussions with the council president and my colleagues, to look to other ways in which we can try to address the concerns. But this is taking a whole different mindset, and it's not just gangs; it's just young people. They said recently pulling seniors out of cars and taking their vehicle. Wait a minute, that's there's something wrong going on here, and I can't quite put my finger on it. And I'm open to anybody who have any comments about that.
Councilman Brown, I don't have anything that came through other than what we shared, but certainly share your concern.
Is Ms. Pam trying to speak? Ms. Pam, if you you can mute on your computer, not on the phone.
Please.
There we go.
Okay. Can you hear me? Thank you. And I do apologize. And thank you, President and Ms.
Yes,
Gail.
ma'am.
But I just wanted to add just a comment, because that is a fraction of the problem. And I did this with our group, and that's why it's been customized to address the needs of urban aging residents, because we don't want to leave our communities. And we still want to maintain a close relationship with the young people. So years ago, when I grew up, everybody had activities on the front porch, the front yard. You don't see that anymore. So that's why I try to integrate that into our social distancing and our front porch chat, and partner with the Academy of Urban Scholars, bringing young people over to work with the senior groups for our 60-minute chat. Next, I'll be reaching out to East High School, because it starts with them knowing and understanding that we care about them. And if we can lift that voice up and start to integrate them into, just like I did the police officers, our community liaison officers, Officer Anthony Rogers and Rogers. Yes, sir. I may have it wrong. Bear with me because it's late, and as you know, things are slowing down for me. My capacity is going down. But I just want to say there is a way to do it, and it's small steps. That's why I reference fingerprints. If we can just make a fingerprint, if we can touch some of these young people, we can help change the dynamics in our community and address the broader issue of safety. And they'll think twice before they look at an older person and want to pull them out of the car, because that has created a lot of fear. Thank you for that moment.
Well, thank you, Council President. And Gail, thank you. Again, it's important for all of us to hear from the residents. And part of that has to deal with community training and training with our police officers and having people from the community spend time at the academy. Something I was involved with a long, long time ago, and something I guess we need to try and figure out how we can enhance that. We don't want the citizens to be fearful of the police, but I understand that. But we also don't want the police to be fearful of the citizens. They're there to protect and serve, not to be concerned about being afraid. And I'm hearing a lot of that, which again is also very, very disturbing at this stage in where we're at with public safety. Gail, again, thank you, and to all the young people especially, and of course the seniors like Pam and myself for their engagement.
Thank you so much, Councilmember. Thank you, Ms. Pam. Councilmember Remy?
I have a lot of questions to see. Somebody just texted me one, but I don't think that Gail would have the answer to this one about surveying young people arrested, why they committed the crime, and what could help them make a different decision. I mean, I think those are things that, as Chair Brown mentioned, we've got to dive a little deeper into the youth crime that's occurring in our community, understand it a little bit better. But that's a really good point. Surveying them, interviewing them, and asking those questions. A lot of times from a behavioral science standpoint, it is lack of things to do outside of, people. We were in a course yesterday, Building Better Lives, that the Columbus Council President and I were, with the Columbus Fire Department. And one of the things that people strive for is a connection. And so many times people that are not feeling connections at home, that gang connection, that group of people, let's just say that they're not even gangs, but people that are going around and committing crimes, that's a connection, albeit a bad one. It is a connection that, people are always longing for. And so we've got to provide the alternatives. We have got to find, and COVID has been particularly hard, obviously to do this, but the minute that we can get back to it, it's like we've got to get back to youth programming and then some, and get back to partnering with mentoring and with working on things like a PALS program that we used to have here in the city, and really get our officers engaged with our youth once again, because without doing that, we're going to continue to lose the battle. But I just want to thank you again for the work that you've done. It's been enlightening. It's great to get this type of community interaction. We always encourage people to reach out, but to actually draw them in and get them engaged is a very, very important. And so very happy to read these results and find ways to implement. And it's certainly when it comes to mental health and finding alternative responses, I don't think you have to ask very far on council how big of a priority it is for us to do that. And we're going to continue to work towards that this year. So thank you once again.
Thank you, Councilmember. My last question, one of the things that really stuck out to me, I saw one of the slides said that residents overwhelmingly define safety as being able to leave their home without fear. Was there any indication why that answer resonated so much with, I don't know if it was like 60-some percent, 70% of folks when asked what does safety mean to them? It was literally just the fact to leave their home without fear. I guess, I mean, I guess I'm answering the question myself because it resonates with me. But did Ms. Geller, anybody elaborate on why you think that struck such a chord with folks?
You know, as we look to see if there was any additional comments surrounding that particular piece, nothing specifically, but given the climate that we're in, just as a nation, that certainly could have played a role in that. Overwhelmingly, when you look at it's 54% as their number one, but when you look at number 1, 2, and 3, overwhelmingly, leaving home without fear is significant. And so people want to feel safe, and they want to feel safe from community. And in some of the mentee responses, they also want to feel safe from police officers. And so I think just what we've experienced in our communities across the nation in 2020 and 2021, I think some of that has played a role, President Hardin.
That is very fair. And as I was thinking about it, you probably also want to feel safe from COVID as well, part of being leaving the house. If we don't have any more questions from my colleagues, I want to thank everybody again. We received several written testimonies regarding this hearing, but no public speakers. So that is awesome. We'll make sure that that is shared, the written testimony with you and team, Gail, with the team, but also will be for public. We will definitely save that and make sure to share with my colleagues. But before wrapping up this evening, I want to thank the Saunders Group, all the community representatives who spoke this evening, council colleagues for participating, CTV and clerk's office staff for making sure we can run all these meetings, and most importantly, the residents for making sure, for who participated in the focus groups, the town halls, and the online surveys. As I stated at the beginning of this hearing, this feedback forms the basis for council's continued investment in reimagining safety. Council passed the operating budget yesterday. Residents mentioned programming for youth, and council set aside dollars for youth soccer on the hilltop. Respondents talked about heightening instances of domestic violence, and council set aside funds to provide to Lutheran Social Services and their Choices Shelter. Many folks who tuned in to Dr. David Kennedy's town hall were impressed and have encouraged council to set aside dollars to continue that work with the National Network for Safe Communities. Because of Councilmember Mitch Brown, we are funding those efforts. So in short, we are listening. And if anything that I would want the residents to take from this is that reform is not a one budget, 1 month, or 1 year endeavor. Because public safety is our top priority, will continue to invest and continue to need to hear from you. And so hopefully one thing that we can impart is that council is listening. We want you to be a part of the process. We need to hear from you. As Ms. Pam Shields says, put your fingerprint on what safety looks like in Columbus moving forward. This is our opportunity. This is our chance to move our city forward. Thank you. So we're going to make sure that this final report is posted on our website in the coming days. So just check. I think it will be at columbus.gov/reimagine safety at some point.
Yes.
And so we look forward to folks being able to dig deeper into the data and have that additional information. Are there any closing comments for anybody else? I don't know if anybody else on the spot. All right. With that, I am going to close out this public hearing. Thank you all for participating. Thank you for your feedback, and thank you for your engagement. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you so much.